Donald's cuts to foreign aid healthcare are having devastating results. And as if we needed more evidence, they're exposing the lack of compassion, empathy, and basic human decency of him and his regime. I want to start with discussing the Trump regime's dismantling of the United States Agency for International Development, also known as USAID. Recently, former USAID official Atul Gawande wrote a piece for The New Yorker. In it, he wrote, quote, Donald's shutdown of USAID has contributed to more than 600,000 deaths. Roughly two-thirds of those killed have been children. Ending this program has cut off access to food, vaccination, and disease testing in vulnerable regions, unquote. The New Yorker also produced a documentary featuring Gawande called Rovina's Choice. The film follows Gawande to Kenya, where he explores the human toll of Donald's policies. Here's a clip from that documentary.
We started to see the impact of the funding cuts quite early when we had the first wave of people being let go of. There was a lot of incredulity, like this can't be happening. This actually cannot be happening. It seemed unimaginable that the cuts would be as bad as they were and affect the sectors where life-saving activities were ongoing. Because malnutrition is such a huge problem in this population, there's a specific word for them, the stabilization center. This is baby York. This is a child who's been in and out of the hospital for the past 1 month, I would say.
She doesn't have as much wasting.
Yes, they are improving slowly.
Yeah.
Children with acute malnutrition lose their ability to fend off disease.
Yes, but Donald Trump doesn't care about that. He doesn't care about starving children in America. So why would he care about starving children anywhere else in the world, especially if they're not white? There are many reasons that defunding an agency like USAID was a horrific idea. It ceded America's ability to use soft power, which is a way to encourage countries to see us as allies, a way to spread democracy to troubled regions, a way to show support for struggling populations. That is all bad. But let's focus on the numbers. At least 600,000 people who should still be alive are dead because of Donald Trump. 400,000 of those people are children who are now dead directly as a result of Donald Trump's policies he accepted and enacted. That's what we should be thinking about here. Yes, as I said, the rest of it, the loss of soft power, the loss of standing in the world, the vacuum that has been opened up by the Trump regime that China is sliding into to fill. That's all terrible for this country's long-term prospects. But if 600,000 people who should still be alive now are dead because of the defunding of USAID, how many more people are going to die because of that in the next 3 years? It is incalculable how much blood there is on Donald Trump's hands, and nobody should be okay with it. Salon reports that a study from the Barcelona Institute for Global Health estimates that by 2030, 22 million people could die because of U.S. and allied aid cuts. This will undo 2 decades of global progress against famine, HIV, malaria, and other preventable diseases. Salon adds that these actions, quote, are deliberately inflicting conditions of life calculated to bring about physical destruction, unquote. That is the definition for genocide. I wish more people cared about it. I wish more people knew about it. This should be a topic that dogs Donald Trump as long as he is in the Oval Office, or until he's brought to The Hague in an orange jumpsuit and leg irons. Earlier this year, PBS News produced a documentary called Cuts and Consequences: The End of USAID. Here's a clip from that documentary.
Secretary Rubio issued waivers for USAID to continue so-called life-saving work, which included HIV drug distribution through PEPFAR, which is the U.S. government's decades-old initiative to combat AIDS. But multiple sources told the NewsHour that the waivers and stop work orders have been so confusing and contradictory that many life-saving programs have ground to a halt.
Secretary Rubio has also said that reports that people have died because of these cuts are, quote, lies.
We have had reports from partners of people who have died. We have had reports of new infections. I think what we're seeing right now is only the tip of the iceberg in terms of the impact. That is, people are off their treatment for 3 months, 6 months, a year. That's when we'll really see the deaths start to escalate.
As was pointed out earlier, all of this defunding of USAID and the chaos caused by the waivers has undone 2 decades of progress made towards helping combat poverty, hunger, and diseases like HIV. If we ever get to the point where USAID becomes a viable agency again, which would, of course, require getting rid of all of the Republicans, it may well take another 2 decades to get us back where we were before people like Donald Trump and Marco Rubio decided that saving a couple of bucks was more important than saving hundreds of thousands and millions of lives. Meanwhile, Donald's assaults on healthcare are harming Americans as well. USA Today reports that roughly 22 million Americans could face massive insurance premium spikes next year, which of course means that many of them won't be able to afford health insurance anymore. The reason for this is that Republicans have refused to extend the enhanced COVID-era tax credit that made the Affordable Care Act coverage economical. These subsidies increased ACA enrollment, especially in red states. They also kept monthly bills within reach for middle and working class families. Without them, premiums could more than double, with some enrollees seeing increases of over 700%. And yes, those would be the people who then can't afford health insurance anymore. On that note, NBC News reports that a West Health Gallup survey found almost half of American adults are worried about rising healthcare costs. That's the highest figure since the organization started tracking this issue in 2021. Additionally, Donald's big abominable bill includes massive cuts to Medicaid. The Congressional Budget Office says nearly 5 million people will lose coverage as a result of this bill. Berkeley Loveless Jr., health and medical reporter for NBC News, has more on this. Take a look.
So the survey found almost half of adults, 47%, say they're worried about healthcare costs going into next year. Concerns about prescription drug costs are also climbing as well. So that's rising from 30% in 2021 to 37% this year. And the share of adults who say healthcare costs cause a lot of stress in their daily lives has nearly doubled since 2022. So that's rising from 8% to 15%. So a lot of important numbers to pay attention to right now.
No elected Republican should ever in public be allowed to, or in private for that matter, be allowed to say that they care about the American family, the American worker, or children, period. But before we go on, with an authoritarian regime running the government, an authoritarian regime that cares nothing at all about humanity, we have to look out for each other. So please like and share this video. And if you believe in our mission, please subscribe to the Barry Trump Media channel. According to The Guardian, the World Health Organization is preparing to cut nearly a quarter of its global workforce by next year. That's over 2,000 jobs. This is happening because the WHO lost its largest donor, the United States, because Donald very proudly withdrew from the agency this January. The U.S. had supplied about 18% of the WHO's total funding. The sudden exit of the United States has forced the agency to slash programs, cut its management team in half, and entered a period of complete restructuring. Additionally, the WHO faces a $1.06 billion budget shortfall for next year, which is nearly a quarter of its projected needs. This is what America now stands for. America is the enemy of health. America is the enemy of combating disease and feeding children. This was the logical endpoint to tens of millions of Americans putting in the Oval Office a man who cares nothing about humanity. Well done. Please take a second and like and share this video. It'd be awesome if you could subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, please follow us and give the show a 5-star rating because it really does help other people find our content. Thanks.